Peace and blessings, family. Sister Ajali, I hope you're feeling good, because that is your nature. Oh my goodness gracious. So much to this subject, and I don't want to talk for too long, but I entreat you to watch the whole video, because it could be 20 minutes, but you know I'm going to make it never a waste of your time, because your time is precious, and I appreciate everybody who watches my shares and your comments, and also your purchases of my magnificent handmade soaps. When you research what the ingredients do, because by law I'm not allowed to tell you what they do, but when you look up colloidal silver, lavender oil, olive oil, coconut oil, calendula flowers, rosemary oil, orange and lemongrass essential oil, the Nzinga, oh my goodness, it's powerful, and the black soap, which is olive and coconut oils, black walnut hull, activated charcoal, baking soda, and lavender oil. When you look all of them up, you know I love you. That's it. Let's get on to the swirling, the ignorant swirling that goes on. There's so many reasons why my larger channel, in case you never saw, my larger channels were terminated. And that's because the devil has lost. He doesn't want to help us to win, though. And the swirling factions, which are agents, most of them, but there are clueless, beguiled black men and black women who have fallen for the narrative, not based on them actually telling them the full truth, but based on an inner compulsion to want to believe the lies. You make a firm, conscious choice when you decide to abandon your own self, even if it's just a memory of yourself as a child. You know, when you were a child, you wanted to be fully accepted, fully protected by those around you. So if you're fully black, then that means as a child, those around you were other black people. And in that wish for protection, you wanted to be loved just as you were born. Not that you know, when you come out and you're 3 years old, your first impulse is not to go put on a weave or to get skin lightening in order to make yourself more appealing. So swirlers, divestors, bed bugs, whatever we call them, or they call themselves, they made a conscious choice, even if they've fallen for the Negropean beguilement. That is the first step towards not understanding that low self-esteem doesn't feel like low self-esteem. It's actually self-erasure, where you're not defending that child that you once were, in your genuineness, in your honesty that you once lived by every single day that you woke up. That's the beauty of melanin, is we are so rooted to the sanity of the Most High that even if we don't know we are, we understand what truth and honesty is. That's why they had to traumatize us successively over generations to be able to convince certain people, agents, to outright lie in front of the entire world. It's incredible. But they never stop, and that's why my platform had to be shut down, because I bring the totality of our victory to us by never ever ceasing in my warnings about man-made radiation, because the swirling narrative is that we're the worst people on the planet, and thereby they have to race to these just, you know, like perfect people. And my relentless expose of their belief in the lies It just, they even had to come out and say, okay, white men aren't perfect. But they always put a but in there as if we're the worst people on the planet, and then they just very top-sidedly will run a gauntlet of just already prepared by whiteism narratives about us that have been built and lied about by whiteism. That's why I bring up Fukushima, because these people are killing our entire planet, and there are no tribes, no nations out there, unless you go as close to the original ones, and that's Black us, that don't have crime. And to kill a whole planet, you can't get to be a bigger criminal than that. And so for the ignorance that swirlers must maintain, I did a little mental probing myself, because I always, even though I don't like it, I have to always confess, because that is part of actually being acknowledging the wrong that you have personally done to our people, is to always be honest about it, not to be defensive about it. So 36 years ago, I was a swirler. I don't consider myself that way, because the only reason why I woke up was because I love being black. I love black people. But I did believe the lies that they put out there, so that you have this automatic deference for whiteism. And that's the smoke and mirrors of white people, where they just perpetuate themselves as absolutely perfect. So you believe their smoke and mirrors, and you just accept their materialism, so that when you conclude what is better, when you drive through their neighborhoods, which you can't help if you're living here in the unentitled snakes, you will just take the facade of their opulence as a given. That means they're also more moral, because all their entertainments portray it that way. And they don't tell you that the folks who own these nuclear power plants that are emitting a toxicity that is wiping out all life, that's turning our skies orange, they don't highlight in their media any of the real truth about themselves. They just keep up with the doctrine of, manifest destiny, and now they've got all their celebrities on the other hand, where they're supposed to be so wonderful, dressing just like they're ready for the orgy. And trust, that is what they are trying to prepare the world to accept, because to divert away, to maintain the ignorant bliss of swirlers, so they remain enslaved to the white man, you have to be completely caught up in your reptilian mindset. It's not reptiles walking around the earth, but there are those who are operating on a very just, emotional, reflexive mindset, so you don't ponder what you're doing. And so I was doing some thinking this morning. I might have just forgot something that I was saying, but it is what it is. I was doing some serious reflecting this morning about myself in those days when I assumed that, white people were a sign of having true accomplishments in life, if you have their approval, or the approval so that you get the whole world, not just white people, Hispanic people, Asian people, to finally stop, throwing little pock shots at us, where they're like, oh, black people, when you think about them, they're so cool, they dance well, they play sports well, but they're just so dumb. They don't do the mathematics, they don't do the science, they don't do this. And swirlers believe that they, the way that they speak, it's just as, ebonic like, so you hear all that your whole life, and then just getting them to take that pain away by smiling at you feels like some sort of accomplishment. So in doing my inner reflection, thinking about the last cave person before I woke up that I ever got near, I realized that I never even examined how that person was beneath me. I didn't examine it, really. I just was like, what made me wake up was not that knowledge, not stopping the self-erasure of my blackness, but what made me wake up was, well, yeah, I did start stopping the self-erasure because I suddenly just fell in love. I fell in love with everything black. It was like an obsession, and it's remained that way since then. But then I didn't assess that I was with somebody who was beneath me. When I ponder, and I never talk about any of my exes because I respect their privacy, so I'm not mentioning names, but this person was, like he worked, I was always an artist, and I was always very good at it. This, disturbing. I was a punk. I was a full-blown punk, alright? But I was always really good at it. And this is when I thought, oh, right, I had more in common with white folks than I did with myself. And this particular theme of the black babies, I put white babies in cages too, was actually very indicative of the Negropean mindset. Even though I didn't know I suffered from the Negropean mindset, I knew something was wrong. And I would put that in my work. And also just, very into the three-dimensionality. And this particular piece right here, actually, it sits around for a long time. Okay, it's like, I don't know, 30-something years old. This is in one of their history books. But at the time, the white person, the white man, I mean, he was a man. I was never that out of my mind. That I was with, he wasn't creative at all. And even though he had a great appreciation of art, which I really enjoyed because that's natural to me. I love going to museums. I love seeing people just, bring a whole new reality through what they see in their own mind, and that translation from thought, from concept to actual object, that's saved my life. Poets and artists saved my life. And so I really enjoyed that aspect of this person, and he also would ponder the structure of life. I've always been that type of person. But other than that, there wasn't anything that he was never driven to create anything on his own. And I never, till this morning, even pondered that. I never pondered that. Why was I with somebody who wasn't as fully creatively expressive as I was and was simply a spectator? I never pondered that when I met white male artists that I could tell in my encounter with them that they thought I was beneath them. I never pondered as much as, and this is my own personal thing, but I have a vast repertoire of pieces that I've made that I don't even have access to. They're all over the globe by I would say thousands. And I never pondered how characteristically my work was undervalued, even though later on I would see echoes of my own stylistic conclusions in different shows. My work was copied outright and was splattered on famous magazines as if the person who stole the concept from me made it themselves. White vulturism, cultural vulturism, that's what they do. Yet, with Dr. Z, Dr. Z is not only my peer, he's above me in his creative skill. Just, I mean, as a man, oh my goodness gracious, but I'm just talking as an artist. As an artist, he photographs the way that I sculpt. He understands the intricacies of expression as it relates to us black people fully. So our conversations about art are like galaxies away from anything I could have ever even had with a fully white male artist. But I was self-erasing and never pondered it. So I was still, like they say, that connection is sacred, even if you're doing it with somebody who is not worthy. It's going to rob something of you. You're going to feel a certain just dumb loyalty to somebody who you can't see. They don't deserve you. Liars, fraudsters, and a whole nation of people killing our planet, shadow banning and censoring. That's a new type of oppression, trying to make it seem like we are, they always try to make it seem like we're the worst people on the planet, but also just slathering us with homosexualism on a non-stop basis and transsuturism, and trying to make it seem like abusing, destroying physically children and putting our black faces on that like we're okay with that. Something's changed with them? No, nothing's changed. You just have erased yourself through your ignorance so completely that you think enslavement is bliss. And it's still the same old thing, enslavement, but it's so far more condemning that the Most High is going to be wiping you out. You and your, like, oh, but maybe Hispanic men and maybe Asian men. Let me tell you something. The only man who has informed us that Jesus was black have been black men. They're the ones who've been doing that research because they have a vested interest in not erasing themselves. I know there's fools out there. You don't have to be with them. There's fools in every single nation. I don't know how many headlines I have to go through where I see Hispanic men killing the whole family, white men killing the whole family. I don't wish that on anybody. But I'm just saying, you're going to have the best chance of understanding your own. I've never been more free in my life than with Dr. Z. I could have any conversation with him and I don't have to explain stuff to him like I'm talking to an alien from another planet. He understands. He understands before I even have the conversation, before I even get there. That brother woke me up completely. He's the only one who could do that. Whereas if you go to, God bless them, may they do the best. I'm not mad at you for just being you and not part of my people. But if you go to the Hispanic community, you aren't going to see white Jesus, okay? That's all you're going to see. They're not in the mood for changing that because it makes them feel uncomfortable. Then you're going to go to that population and think, oh, because they're not white, they're better than? Stop. Stop. They still prefer to see you as a slave. And only your ignorance will make that a blissful enslavement. Right? Where you don't know where you are. Might as well do the big one. Happy, artistically engaging concubine. Okay? So, yeah, that's what I needed to talk about. And, being honest to, like, potentially tens of people. It's a difficult thing. But this is real. These people are engaged in a genocide of all of Black us, and we are so trapped, that when someone brings the full force of the truth before you, you get a little nervous. You get a little like, you step back a little bit. Oh, goodness gracious. Nobody can destroy us unless we go along with the enslaving genocide of it. Okay? Nobody. Straight Black family pride. And we own forever. Go to 25,000yearcycle.org. I'll put it over here. Over there. I can't know because it's reverse and stuff. I'll put it over here. 25,000yearcycle.org. Dr. Z, you gonna get the best from those who love you the most, because I ain't gonna play no games with you. I put the best products in all of my stuff, and brother Dr. Z, he studies constantly. You are not going to find such extraordinarily fortified healing as you will on that website. Go now. Do not hesitate, because with your support, I'm going to test our food for radiation, because the jab ain't kill all the creatures. I could just like roll out creatures dead by the billions. But I don't do that, because then people would be like, oh, she's so depressing. That's that Negro pianism, okay? We're supposed to do something to protect our planet. And that's what I'm going to do by testing your food, because Biden and his administration oversaw the shipping in of all Fukushima food to our plates. No alerts whatsoever. They didn't say there's no more radiation. They just said there'll be no alerts. What you think the CMOS campaign is all about? So they can make sure that they can say wherever they want to that CMOS comes from. Ain't no place that's not radioactive, okay? But when it's coming from Japan, that's just going to increase the virulency. But there's a whole lot of scientific details about supralineal toxicity. I know, right? I can't explain these things to you. I really could, but I don't do that, because more of us have to become acquainted with the science. And if you're not going to do that, then let me do that for you, okay? Go buy yourself some soap. That's all I need to say. Mwah! I love you.